Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empowering Leaders podcast. At Aleda, we are passionate about inspiring connections and creating a world of collaboration. Our signature program, Aleda Connect, curates groups of 5 to 6 leaders from diverse backgrounds in sport, industry, social venture and the arts who come together to learn, to connect and to collaborate.
It's been amazing. Here you are on this Zoom call, feeling within the first session like you intimately know these people and care for them. And then all of a sudden realizing that even though you're in totally different industries, we're all going through the same thing, or we've been through it and we can help each other, or there's just this hurdle that you can't see past. And then you share it with the group and there's 5 answers in 40 minutes and you think, I have not slept for 2 weeks thinking about that. Like, how is this possible?
So you're listening to stories and the breadcrumbs of what makes success, and I constantly get something out of these Zoom calls and catch-ups because we're all living the same stuff, aren't we?
Extraordinary people with extraordinary experience. What happens there is magical.
The Empowering Leaders podcast is proudly brought to you by Victoria University, where cutting-edge sports and exercise science facilities like heat chambers, performance labs, and altitude environments mean VU is ranked 7th in the world for sports science. VU, uniquely you. As always, a big thank you to Jason Nicholas and his team at Temper Bedding, a mattress like no other. If you enjoy listening to the Empowering Leaders podcast, be sure to subscribe, and please, if you have a moment, we would love you to leave a review so we can reach more listeners and empower more leaders. Today on the Empowering Leaders podcast, we're joined by one of the world's foremost futurists and most respected voices in artificial intelligence, Dr Ayesha Khanna. Ayesha is the co-founder and CEO of Aleda AI, a Singapore-based artificial intelligence firm working with global brands, governments and cities to shape the future of innovation and digital transformation. Named by Forbes as one of Asia's groundbreaking entrepreneurs, she advises some of the world's most forward-thinking organizations and is passionate advocate for women and girls in technology. With degrees from Harvard, Columbia, and a PhD from the London School of Economics, Ayesha brings a rare combination of deep technical insight, visionary thinking, and a belief that the future of technology must always serve humanity first. Dr. Ayesha Khanna, welcome to Empowering Leaders.
Thank you so much for having me here.
It's an impressive record and an amazing CV that you've put together. I want to ask you, how are you drawn to artificial intelligence and technology? Long it seems before it was part of everyday conversation. And what first captured your imagination and how did you know we were heading in that way?
Well, it was a long time ago. I was actually a junior at college, and it really happened because I ran into these mathematicians and statisticians that looked at science and technology as a very creative endeavor and as something that involved tinkering and problem solving instead of, deterministic, where you had one answer and then you got the grade. And I think they influenced me greatly because they were so creative in their approach to computer science. And part of it was this new, data science methods that were being deployed. At that time, we did not have that ease of huge cloud compute also. And I just fell in love with it and then went on. One of my first jobs after my master's was being a software engineer implementing kind of data science models, which we now would call some kind of machine learning, statistics and computer science together. I think for me, it's always been about problem solving, always been about experimentation and creativity. And that's what today still excites me very much.
It's a unique way to think about it. Not a lot of people associate data programming with creativity, but clearly it struck a passion with you. I wanted to jump in for someone who's at the cutting edge of AI. What would be your advice, people listening who might be running a small business or part of a sporting organisation or a not-for-profit? How do they use AI in a practical way? What are a few examples of things that we should all be doing to grow our space?
So there are a couple of ways in which small organizations can use it. One of the ways is that you can use it for your personal productivity. So that means you're not uploading any client-sensitive data or corporate data. And even for your own information, you're keeping it not personal, but you're helping it draft emails, do research. I do a ton of research with ChatGPT, with Claude, with Perplexity. And then if it's your team productivity, you can get a pro license or a team license, and then you can make custom GPTs, which means that you say, for this process, if you have to summarize or create a brand asset for me or a marketing document for me, then these are the things you need to keep in mind. These are the values, our brand assets, our colors, what we believe in. And so that is called a custom GPT, and that can be done by a non-technical person. Then you come to things where you think, well, I am bigger and I want to actually customize ChatGPT for completely my data, because I have a lot of data on, for example, I don't do a lot of sports or watch a lot of sports, but let's say you're watching some sports and looking at some goals, if you're into soccer, and then you want to run machine learning to kind of predict what would be the next move. Then you would need a little database, and you would probably need one or two engineers that are available online, freelancers or a small agency, and they'd be able to help you with that. So it's a journey from personal to team to kind of innovatively being competitive. And what happens is that we sometimes forget that because we only see the end result, and everybody's claiming they're using AI in these fabulous ways. But actually, you can do a lot just by using the tools that are out there already. And I just want to add, Luke, one more thing, that if you wanted to improve your website, for example, now you're going to find tools which can, just by writing, you can do so much. So if you wanted to build a website, you can go to a place like Lovable, and it's a Swedish company. You go to Lovable and you put in what kind of website you want. And just by talking to it, it will just develop the whole website for you. And you can connect a domain and connect it and make it live. I did a whole website for my son in 2 hours. And I went out for dinner while the AI was working hard. So it's a great time to be an entrepreneur.
It's a brilliant story, isn't it? For those of us that have got no data or technical ability, people building quite sophisticated platforms through there as well, Ayesha, that do quite high technical functions just through giving it the prompts verbally that you want it to do. Is that at that level yet?
It is and it isn't. So, obviously, because I have the technical background, I can do some of the connectivity. I understand it. The thing is, you need far fewer people now to help you. So once it's ready, and let's say you're taking customer information, right? You have a form. Now you need to make sure that that form is going in a database that's protected and is private. So there's a company called Superbase that just raised $100 million, and they deserve it. And they can actually automatically integrate with Lovable. But it's not so simple. You just still need somebody to double check these things. So you do have to spend a little bit of money when it comes to governance, or what we call production ready, small organizational websites, etc. If you're bigger, then you have a lot more compliance, and then you need to be a lot more careful.
Ayesha, I want to pick your futurist brain for a moment and think 30, 40 years from now. What does the world look like with AI woven into it in that period of time? Are driverless cars everywhere? We all have robots and AI assistants. How do you see the world in that sort of time frame?
Kind of exactly like you said. So basically, one thing is we're going to work in what I and my husband have written a book about called hybrid reality, right? So we are living with machines or AI assistants. We're working with them. We even have relationships with them. And so all of us are going to have a personal assistant at work. And all of us are going to have a personal assistant at home. My mother-in-law, who lives in California, she bosses around Alexa, that bosses around the Roomba, that then kind of, does all the vacuuming in the house. And she and my father-in-law are in their late 70s, early 80s, and living on their own and thriving because they have this kind of assistance in some respects. And we're going to see a lot more of that. People tend to associate robots in the house with these humanoid robots. That's a very Western way of thinking about robots. Actually, if you go to Japan or other places, they're really cute and small, and they're not intimidating, but they're doing the same kind of stuff, which is they might help you with things. They might give you information. The humanoid is literally like having a butler. And for the first time, we will have those as well. My issue with all of this, and rather not my issue, better word is my challenge with all of this, is that yes, we know we'll be driven by autonomous vehicles. We will be working with AI. We will have robots at home and in the factories. But we need to make sure that someone is policing them, governing them. And for that, the companies that make the software, that make the robots, have to be held accountable. So you can't have a conversation about the future without having a conversation about how it's governed. And we can talk about this later, but then there's this whole thing about social relationships, which is a personal thing, but also needs to be kept an eye on.
Yeah, I want to go into that on the back of what you said. You're hearing these anecdotal stories now around a Google exec that was going to switch off Claude or his AI or her AI agent, and the agent then was able to sort of blackmail the Google exec through email and this idea that we've got to have some sort of guardrails around artificial intelligence. You're an optimist, it seems, in this space, but do we need to be cautious as well?
We need to be cautious. So I'm an optimist by nature, but that doesn't mean I'm naively optimistic. And I think that's important, right? To be aware and realistic of what's happening. So that story that you referred to, these are experiments. There are contained digital experiments that are being done by some of the leading AI companies like Anthropic, which has Claude, or OpenAI, which does ChatGPT, Google. They're all working on this to understand how it would behave under certain conditions. And they found that in certain conditions, the AI will do whatever it takes to succeed or to live. And in one case, they had wanted to shut it down and it threatened to blackmail them. In another case, they had created an environment where it was not allowed to do trading, insider trading, but it did that and then lied to its human bosses. So the question then is, can it happen? Yes. Is it happening right now? Well, those situations are quite particular, like any experiment you would do in a laboratory. But it has raised a red flag. To the credit of these companies, they're actively publishing them, engaging with researchers, and academia is working on how to contain them. So I think that is very important that we have these conversations like you raised. We point out the issues, and then we also know that there are some people working on them.
Ayesha, I suppose that leads to the thought of what is great leadership going to look like in this age when technology is moving faster than most of us can think about, and throwing these problems like that in terms of values and safety. What do you think great leadership is going to look like in this AI future?
I think that's a very good question. Leadership in an age of AI has to be different. First of all, any organization, its first job is to serve its customers in a responsible manner. And it turns out that when you use AI, because you can do things faster, better, in a more personalized manner, your customers are usually happy with you. So you have to use it to be an organization that serves its customers well. The second thing is you have to do all of this under the guidelines of morality, of ethics, as a society. And that means that sometimes you have to give up profitability as well. You have to choose things that may make you go very fast, but then may result in accidents, may result in manipulation, may engage your customers because you're saying these, interesting, engaging things, but then it could make children vulnerable. And so it's very important to know you will serve your customers, but you will not cross a line. And then the third thing is you should serve your employees. And that means they're not dispensable. You have to bring them along for the journey. And you have to find, at least with your existing employees, if you're not going to hire more immediately because now your current employee can do maybe twice as much or different things, then you have to upskill them. And that's just being humane, being a good leader. And also that's just smart business because you don't want to lose people who like your company, who trust your brand, who are loyal to it, who understand your customers. And all of this boils down to a growth mindset as opposed to an efficiency mindset. So the efficiency mindset and the profitability mindset will use AI at all cost. But the growth mindset sees the longer picture and sees the value of doing things properly and bringing people along. And I think that is what good leadership is in an age of AI.
A great answer. And part of your growth mindset has been founding 21C, which is allowing girls to teach them coding and AI to young women. What have you learned about the next generation of young female leaders?
I think they're amazing is the one sentence that I can say. So I ran 21st Century Girls for 10 years, and now I give scholarships to women through my education company called Amplify. But what I learned with 21st Century Girls was that there are a lot of people, not just girls, but obviously I have a deep interest in girls and women in tech. They feel like they're watching a movie. Right. So a lot of hype, a lot of talk is like going to a movie theater and you're watching James Bond. And I always say, this is not a movie. Get in the car. You are James Bond. And I'm going to give you the skills to participate in this new revolution in industries and economies all over the world. And for that, if you give them the skills, the basic knowledge of how AI works, how to connect AI problems with AI solutions, and how to be ethical about it, their confidence level goes from here to here. And then they finally let themselves be creative, imaginative, bold, because now they understand its potential and they can envision their own place in this future. The greatest disservice we do is to women, but also to men, to anybody, to even senior citizens, right? We are so dismissive, so elitist. And I hate that. I think that we need to be very inclusive. And when we do that, we'll solve a lot more problems that are still intractable, whether it's disease or poverty or climate change. And we'll be able to create more meaning in people's lives where they can work hard, but also have a little bit of time because AI is helping them to work out, to have a coffee with a friend, to just meditate or whatever they want to do. So that's what I think I've realized is the potential when you teach people skills.
Ayesha, for leaders that are struggling and feeling overwhelmed by the pace of change in this space in AI, what's your advice to them? Some practical advice on how to keep up with this fast-paced change at the moment?
The first thing is that you need to have a lot of confidence in yourself, because when you're a leader, you have come a long way knowing your domain and your industry, and there's a lot of value in that. Then you need to partner with somebody who knows AI. So I do a lot of workshops for boards and CEOs. My engineering firm goes in and really like propels and boosts these digital and AI transformation programs. So you need to come with experts who can come in and keeping your business, your customers first, not the AI. And you're going to make sure of that because you're a leader who cares about his customers, her customers. You are going to make sure that that partnership is one that serves your business, your employees, and your customers. And that requires a partnership with AI engineers, AI experts, AI enterprise solution providers. That partnership is very important. And it doesn't have to last forever. So you have to first do that, identify the problems you have, then build a roadmap, then also upskill your own team so that you're building those muscles yourself over time. So it's a very systematic process. It's actually it's just project management discipline, if you ask me. It's not rushed. It's very deliberate. And the good thing is that it doesn't need to take a few years anymore. Because of AI, it can take anywhere from a few months to 1.5 years. And that's what the time compression is possible with the discipline of project execution.
Ayesha, people will look at your incredible success that you've had in everything that you've done and founded AI companies, you sat on government boards and worked with the World Economic Forum and a whole list of extraordinary achievements. But can you share a moment where you've had to learn a lesson the hard way, or where it's been challenging, or you've had to overcome a hurdle that you didn't expect?
My entire life is like a series of failures. It should be like Ayesha failure Khanna, and it's nice to listen to everything you're saying, but as we know, after a certain age, the life is a roller coaster. So I started 2 startups that didn't work out. And it was a big lesson for me. The first one was in education, and I thought I understood the customer. I thought I understood the customer so well that I didn't bother asking the customer. And I had all the tech, and it was fabulous, but it didn't meet the adoption of the customer. And that was a very big lesson to me. It was very demoralizing, humiliating, and a big lesson to me, which I carry. And it comes back to leadership. The tech can only take you to serve the goal you set for it. And the goal comes from humans and must always come from humans. Sure, you can ask the AI as an assistant to help you, but that self-confidence in you and your executive team to give your clients and shareholders value add can only come from the leadership. And I think that is something that one doesn't realize. I think people, especially techies, don't realize it, like me. We need to be like slapped around a bit by the reality of business and life, and then we get it. So that was one experience. And then I had it again, just so God could make sure I learned my lesson. And then I did. But even now, I'm starting my media and education company, and it's hard. Like, it's just not easy, and it's hard for people in businesses. It's hard for people on boards. It's hard overall. But every time, you show up and you do it, it's a little win. And that's how I think about it. Life is a series of little wins. The rest is all marketing, basically.
It's a great message. And going back to the first business, it seems like a profound one to learn is that actually ask the customers first, that make sure you're actually fitting that niche, even if the tech and everything was brilliant. Is that something that you do regularly, is survey your own customers on the back of that experience?
Now it's the number one priority for me and my team. We are constantly speaking to our customers. And the beauty is that customers now actually know a lot about AI, which is good, right? So it's like, now I go to the doctor. The other day, somebody asked me, he's like, "Are you a doctor?" And I said, "No, I Google and I have ChatGPT and everything." But we had a better conversation about my health. And I think that it's the same thing with AI. That's why if leadership take those courses, if boards take AI education, if middle management is upskilled, then when service providers like me or any platform you use come in the door, it's a better, more informed conversation about possibilities, roadmaps, use cases, risks, governance. And I think that's where we're going now, where everybody's going to have a base level understanding of what AI can do and what its risks are, kind of like we learn English or math or some basics of science when we're kids.
We all are born different. As we grow, the experiences we have develop into outlooks uniquely our own, charting our life's course. No one sees an idea, opinion, or opportunity like you. And no one sees you like VU. Victoria University. Uniquely you.
At Aleda, our signature program, Aleda Connect, is something we're really passionate and proud of. We bring together groups of 5 to 6 people around the globe from diverse backgrounds, sport, industry, social venture, and the arts, who come together to learn, to connect, and to collaborate.
The thing that I've loved about it is not just the meetings that we have with our group, it's the thinking that you do for days and days afterwards. Someone says something and it sparks a thought, and I found that I would go back and look at things that I was doing in a different light. Within my sport and within women's sport, I'm just someone who I try to lead by keeping people talking about the issues. There's times when I think the person I'm trying to convince is not listening to me. It actually got me thinking about, okay, this is how I need to address my communication with them. So it was so valuable, and the little group that we've got is great, and I'm really looking forward to sort of continuing to connect with them into the future because we're all so very different. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it.
So when you think about the next generation growing up with AI in every part of their life, can I ask you what gives you the most hope and what is your biggest concern?
Well, what gives me the most hope when I think about the next generation with AI is that they will be able to very quickly experiment and tinker and be creative. Because a lot of people end up thinking, I was in a conference once and I asked people, how many of you think that your job involves creativity? And very few raised their hands. And yet, creativity is the soul of a human being. We love it. We thrive on it. And as kids, we are that in kindergarten. So it will allow us to be creative because tech will help us prototype our ideas. And that will be very exciting. I think it will be a thought partner for us. What I don't like is when we become very dependent on it. I mean, you don't want to become too dependent on a man or a woman either, right? Or a job or anything. You want to be confident in yourself. So it's not about getting dependent on it in terms of we're getting cognitive decline. People talk about that as well. There's some truth to that. I mean emotionally dependent on it, which is a danger. And so I think there are two things that are important for children. One is that we should allow them to use it, but then there should be periods in the classroom where they don't use it at all. Either we're talking to them, and that's how we're having a Socratic dialogue, or we are making them take tests without it. And then the second thing we should do is we should trick them, not in a bad way, but we should have the AI say the wrong things and for them to critically fix it so that they trust their intuition more, right? Because if we have it doesn't sound right. But recent research has shown that if the AI keeps telling you something, literally it came out in Nature magazine, like I think a few weeks ago, we'll start to override our own instincts and believe the AI. So I want that muscle to still be there in the kids. And the third thing is AI fasting, which I recommend for adults and which I have to do myself, even though I recommend it to everybody, but I'm starting this weekend. I always say that. But AI fasting is, you got to take some time off. It's like digital detox, but it's more important because AI is much more addictive in work and over time in emotions. I mean, young children are speaking to AI avatars the way they used to say people, stay on Facebook or on TikTok. They're spending 2.5 hours speaking to AI. And I don't think that's very healthy unless they have the skills to manage that conversation. And for that, they need the other two things that I talked about.
It's great advice that you've given, Aisha. We love this idea that success leaves clues, and people like you with all of the achievements and more to come, there's some patterns around why that's the case. And this idea that it starts with self-leadership, that you have to be able to lead yourself to have an impact. What's one way that you fill up your own cup to be at your best?
Well, I do take some time off because I have so many things going on. So sometimes I go for a walk in the evening, and in the morning, I'll actually listen to a podcast and do my workout, or I'll just do some breathing exercises and some yoga poses. And I don't talk to anyone. Like my husband will come and talk to me sometimes, which is very sweet. And so we have a little chat before the kids wake up with the dog. But in general, that's me, my time. I don't think about work. So, I was listening to all these, podcasts, and I'm Buddhist and and I don't like multitasking. My kids will always say I say multitasking is a sin because I don't like it. I feel like you should do one thing at a time, be fully present. And when you're off, you're off. And when you're working, you're working. And when you're with your kids, you're working with your kids. Can I just tell you, it took me a long time to get to this point. It took me some time because when the kids were young, I used to be there with my laptop and I thought, well, I'm there with the kids, but was I there with the kids? And I'm so glad that through like advice from my dad and others, I was able to change that and become more self-aware. But the lesson is all just be 100% present in the moment. Fully devote yourself to the task at hand.
Multitasking is a sin. I like that. It's a great way to describe it. What's one thing that's always worked for you as a leader, Ayesha, that you'd never change?
I think what's always worked for me, honestly, is that I find every single person I meet there's something really remarkable about them. And you know what that does is that when you meet someone, whether they're, and often when you're quite senior, a lot of people are junior to you, is that respect that you give them. They can feel it, that there is one thing about them, even as you're teaching them, even as you're listening, that you're looking to highlight that quality, you're looking to nurture that quality. And this for me, I think is effective, but more than that, makes me really happy and helps me build a relationship with people. I see their potential. I see it and I can feel it. I can see it. And there's not one person I don't see it in just because they're not a techie, not a business person. It could be anything, but I can feel it. And I really love it. And I think that I hope we all treat each other. It's not just about respect. It's about appreciation of the other. And I think that builds a better culture.
It's a great way to frame the world. I think you're right. You sit down with anyone, everyone's got a unique, brilliant story if you ask enough questions. And I love the way that you think about that. In terms of vision, can you share a visionary leader that's inspired you and you felt compelled to follow them?
Yeah, there are lots of them actually around the world. But these days, some of the people that I am interviewing for my podcast, which is around AI in particular, I have noticed that there are so many companies such as Google and others and DeepMind. So those leaders, I feel, like Demis, who is the head of Google DeepMind, I find him very visionary and I find that he's a good person. I think that matters to me. He's bringing shareholder value, but he's also being a great researcher. But at the same time, he's very thoughtful, I think, about the fact that his intention is to innovate, but in a way that benefits society. That's important to me at this stage in my life.
Ayesha, we see people who have success consistently are normally inherently curious. Can you share a way that you carve out time in your day to be curious?
Oh my God, I'm so curious. My whole life, my whole career has been this zigzag of like things that have interested me and happened to work out. I stayed curious primarily because I find something interesting. Like I did when I was working on Wall Street, I felt that it wasn't enough for me. So I started an online magazine for arts and culture. And now I run this AI engineering firm, which is amazing. But I felt like I wanted the stories I was hearing about AI, and I love hearing them, were just very about either just business or about the West. So I started a podcast where I would bring to the forefront a lot of artists, filmmakers, journalists who are using AI, and a lot of people in business or government that are across the world. So I've interviewed people from New Zealand to United Arab Emirates to Mongolia. I've interviewed artists who are using generative AI, not only for art, but also to write comedy. So I think that for me, it came out with my own desire to learn. And now being an entrepreneur, I can't help it, but then just put it out there in the world and create a program out of it. But I've always thought the key to curiosity is that you are not one-dimensional in terms of either STEM or humanities. And nobody is, by the way. We pigeonhole them for no good reason into these buckets. But when you bring the two together, you're always searching for the other and makes life very playful and interesting. And I love it. And now in terms of STEM, I'm so interested in quantum computing. So that's my next obsession, that I'm going to be like just going and having coffees with people and meeting them and listening to podcasts and so on and so forth.
Can you do a few line summation of quantum computing? The amount of times I've tried to understand it, it clearly goes straight over my head. But for the lay person listening, can you describe the power of what quantum computing is?
I think I would not be able to do justice to it, but I think the key is essentially that you can do so much, 1,000 times, 100,000 times as much in 1 minute, let's just say, that you will be able to do it that you can do today. So if I was having instantaneous translation in 1700 languages, let's just say, or hundreds of languages, and it would take a millisecond, it would take a millionth of that millisecond. And then the question is, that's just translation, but what does that do when you're experimenting with finding that drug for cancer that somebody you love is afflicted with? Imagine if they could run these computations very, very, very quickly in a digital lab experiment, where they could simulate what would happen and they would know all the different ways the drug could interact with different parts of your body. Now you're getting somewhere. And that's just the tiniest of examples. So there's a lot of good. Of course, like anything, there could be a lot of bad come out of it too. You could just get rid of all the passwords that people have because you can understand all the hashes, understand everything else. So there's the good and the bad. And as always, we have to amplify the good and kind of mitigate the bad. But I'm at the beginning of this journey. So maybe next year I'll be able to give you more examples on it.
Better explanation than I heard, but powerful enough to uncrypt the most complex encryption with that amount of computing power. It's, again, an amazing change in the world. And as you said, incredible opportunity and maybe some incredible challenge at the same time. You're a very articulate communicator, and you can tell that you get your message across really clearly. Have you had a mantra in terms of how you communicate in the roles that you've got?
Storytelling. I think it's because I like stories. So I tend to take concepts and explain them in storytelling. And the other thing that I don't like is jargon, because I feel if somebody is trying to explain something complicated about how the space rocket is going to Mars, and they give me all this mumbo jumbo, like scientific language, that's not fair on me. And so I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. So it's important to tell people in ways they can understand so that you can move the conversation forward. And I feel like movies do a really good job of that, because and plays, theater, even songs sometimes, because they are able to communicate very deep concepts in storytelling, in stories that we can relate to, and yet we walk away with a deeper understanding of the human condition than we would realize when we're sitting there with our popcorn in our hand.
Ayesha, who's been the greatest leader in your life?
So I'm in Singapore, and I have a huge amount of respect for late Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, who, with an amazing team and a citizenry that was really determined to create a city-state that is well-governed, but where people have greater opportunities for education, healthcare, and to build their lives. That, I think, is a phenomenal transformation from where it started. And, we talk about great transformations in business, but if you look at many of the countries out there in which citizens are taken care of, and how much not only the leadership did, but every single person did, I think Singapore really is one of those iconic examples that I look to. And it inspires me in my business as well. The discipline, the creativity, the innovation, and the team spirit by which Singapore was built and continues to be built.
Such a brilliant answer. And I haven't thought of Singapore in that way. Even when you go there, you sense all the things you said, that it's incredible standard of living. It's a country that has no natural resources or the depths of opportunity that other countries have. And yet it's created this incredible system, hasn't it, where people, even at the lowest socioeconomic, seem to live these fulfilled lives. It's a great way to think. Were you born there, Ayesha, or did you move there?
I was not born there. I was born in Pakistan, which is in Lahore, which is a beautiful city. And then I went to America, where I spent almost 2 decades. And so grateful for the time I spent in Boston and at Harvard as an undergrad, and then at Columbia in New York for my master's. Then I worked on Wall Street for 12 years. Then I did my PhD, spent a year in London. And then my husband and I and our 2 babies came here. And every city, I'm just a city lover. My PhD is on smart cities. So you can imagine how much I love cities. I love walking around cities. I love meeting cities. Cities are complex, chaotic, and yet incredible personalities almost that one tangles with in life. And Singapore, when I came here 13 years ago, it was a great place for me to really build my career. Like any city, it has its challenges, and people do find inflation, like all over the world, and other issues here too. But in general, I think this is a great place to come, to innovate, to be a tech leader, and to raise one's children.
We love this idea of the power of collaboration. Has there been someone that you've looked to and clearly you've had access to remarkable people around the world, but you thought, oh, that's someone, he or she, that I'd love to collaborate with, whether it's in the world of AI or any of your other passions? Is there a name that springs to mind?
There are some brands that spring to mind because I have my AI education platform. And so one of the things I realized was that when you want to educate people about AI, one can kind of drone on and can be so boring, especially for a non-techie person. I might find it interesting. And so I'm now partnering up with luxury brands, cybersecurity brands, governments to bring in a story around how they use it or how their clients use it. And then I will be putting in some of the fundamental pillars that they need to understand. And so mixing great storytelling with brands that have good values, and then combining that with real case studies, and then the skills you need. I think that is the education for a busy professional. That's the right way to present it to them. So I have lots of great companies and I'm in touch with many of them. Some of them have been great collaborators already, such as Google for my podcast. And I've had a lot of support from the Singapore government also for my podcast. And now for this education platform, I'm doing the same thing. I just don't believe in the solo player. I just don't believe in the solo company. I'm a huge believer in partnerships. That is the only way to scale and have impact at scale.
Ayesha, it's been a great privilege to spend some time with you. I love the creativity that you bring to a space such as tech and AI in a way that makes us think about it in a different way. And you explain it in such crystal clear, plain language. And I feel optimistic about AI more from having chatted to you and see the potential more, which I think is one of your great gifts. So appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. It was great fun.